When Israelis are asked what should be done about this very serious threat, the dominant answer is manage the risk. That sounds reasonable. And maybe it is tactically, but it also reveals something deeper. Turkey is a problem. Yes, Erdogan is hostile. Yes, Turkish moves in the region are problematic. But please, not another front. Not while Gaza, Iran, Lebanon, the economy, internal politics are already stretching Israel thin. That is the voice of an exhausted nation. There are some Jews behaving badly in Judea and Samaria. There is some criminal activity. It is no more than the criminal activity that exists in any society anywhere else in the world. That's not to say it shouldn't be dealt with, but it is not the equivalent of the Palestinian campaign of violence that targets Israel and its Jewish citizens, not by any conceivable method. Hey, I'm Ryan Jones in Jerusalem with Israel Today. Let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about the Turkish threat. Erdogan, why Israelis increasingly see Turkey as a strategic threat in the region. The issue is not that Israel is blind to this danger. The issue is that Israel sees the danger, but after nearly 3 years of continuous war, it doesn't have the strength or the attention span to properly respond. Israel is built for short wars. Its military doctrine, its reserve system, its economy, its political culture, they all assume that Israel's wars must be won quickly. Israel can mobilize with incredible intensity, but it cannot keep large parts of society in uniform indefinitely. Not economically, not socially, and not politically. And the war that began on October 7th, 2023, has become the longest continuous conflict in the modern history of the State of Israel. That matters because Israel is exhausted. And Turkey is meanwhile gaining influence, legitimacy, and military weight in the region. Now, the reason all of this matters is that up until 20 years ago, Israel and Turkey were on very friendly terms. But when Erdogan came to power in 2014, he introduced a more Islamist approach, and he began to lay the groundwork for open hostility with Israel. Now, social norms that are put in place today, what Erdogan has been doing for the past 20 years now, social norms such as hostility toward the State of Israel and the likening of Israeli leaders to Nazis, these types of social norms today can become the basis for future confrontation. Israel knows this better than anyone. More concerning is the fact that Erdogan's Turkey is not just another unfriendly regional country. There are plenty of those. Turkey is a NATO member. It has a very large military. It sits at a strategic location, and it has outsized influence in Syria, Gaza, across the Eastern Mediterranean, and even in Jerusalem. And of late, Erdogan's rhetoric toward Israel has become openly hostile, not just hinting at hostility, but openly hostile. At times, it's not much less bellicose than what we're hearing come from the Ayatollahs in Tehran. And that is what baffles many Israelis. How can Erdogan speak about Israel this way, present Israel as a regional and even a global threat, openly support Hamas, halt trade with Israel, and still be treated by Western leaders as a normal and reliable ally? Context for all of this is that Turkey just hosted the NATO summit in Ankara. 32 NATO leaders were in the Turkish capital. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was there. NATO announced more than $50 billion in new procurements. And at the center of it all stood Erdogan. For Turkey, this was a moment of legitimacy, a moment of status, a moment that said, no matter how hostile Erdogan is acting toward Israel, the West needs him, and they're going to turn a blind eye. Israelis noticed this. Polling from the Dor Moria Center shows that many Israelis already view Turkey as a strategic regional threat. According to the survey, almost no Israelis today see Turkey as a friend or a partner. So the Israeli public is not asleep. It sees the threat. But here's the contrast. When Israelis are asked what should be done about this very serious threat, the dominant answer is manage the risk. That sounds reasonable. And maybe it is tactically, but it also reveals something deeper. Israelis are saying, yes, Turkey is a problem. Yes, Erdogan is hostile. Yes, Turkish moves in the region are problematic. But please, not another front. Not another long confrontation. Not while Gaza, Iran, Lebanon, the economy, internal politics are already stretching Israel thin. That is the voice of an exhausted nation. Turkey, meanwhile, does not need a dramatic military clash with Israel to become dangerous. No one is expecting Turkish missiles to start falling on Tel Aviv or Jerusalem any time in the near future. Turkey can work slowly, through diplomacy, through cultural projects, through education, through religious activity, through humanitarian branding, something it's doing heavily in Gaza, through its activities in eastern Jerusalem, and that's something we'll touch on in a future episode, through the Israeli Arab communities, through Syria, and through Gaza diplomacy. That is a long game. And long games are exactly where an exhausted nation like Israel struggle to respond, struggle to come up with a cohesive and effective strategy. And even if Israel weren't exhausted, no one is suggesting the use of military force against Turkey, but there needs to be pushback. Israel needs to be present. It needs to be investing, presenting alternatives, pushing its agenda, and demonstrating confidence in the region. That's a big ask for a tired and war-weary nation. Now, the assumption would be that Israel could rely on America to keep this Turkish threat in check. After all, Turkey listens to Washington. Erdogan is very keen to keep on America's good side for his own strategic reasoning. But America and the West in general have allowed NATO's reliance on Turkey to create a blind spot when it comes to the government of Erdogan and its open hostility towards Israel and other regional allies of the West, such as the Kurds. President Trump speaks warmly about Erdogan, calling him a strong and reliable leader. Now, from Trump's point of view, Turkey is useful. In some ways, he may even view Turkey as more useful than Israel. From Israel's view, Turkey is laying the groundwork for a future confrontation. That gap in perception between Israel and the US in regard to Turkey and Erdogan in particular is very dangerous for the future. Because Israelis hear Erdogan sounding more and more like an enemy, while Western leaders continue treating him like a difficult but a necessary partner. The situation can only inevitably lead to open conflict at some point down the road. Could be 10 years, could be 20 years, could be 50 years. But it's coming unless someone intervenes now. So yes, Israel sees the Turkish threat. Israelis are not blind to it. And that's not the problem. The problem is that Israel is tired. It is a country built for short wars, short confrontations, that is now stuck in a long war. A country that is built for quick mobilization, but it is dealing with a prolonged strain on its reservists' families, on its businesses, on its political infrastructure, and on its economy. And while Israel is trying to catch its breath, Erdogan is playing a long game. And Trump and the West are letting him get away with it unhindered. The danger is not only what Turkey might do tomorrow. The danger is what Turkey is building while Israel is too exhausted to respond. And if Turkey keeps moving while Israel is resigned to merely manage the situation, time will be on Turkey's side, just as it was on Hamas's side, another threat that Israel recognized and tried to manage rather than confront. That's it from me here in Jerusalem. I'm Ryan Jones for Israel Today. I'll see you next time.